What's up everybody, welcome to another episode of the greatest vlog in the world, and today we're looking for some answers. I want to know why my Madeiran grandparents left to South Africa, and that's what we're going to investigate. But first, let me tell you a little bit about who I am. I was born and raised in Johannesburg in the East Rand in a small place called Sunwood Park in Boksburg, and was lucky enough to grow up in a Madeiran immigrant community. On the 29th of November 2009, I landed in Madeira with the intention of staying, got involved in the 4x4 tour business, and started the best YouTube vlog in the world. And now, I find myself here in Santo de Serra, in this place, which is quite a weird feeling for me. But this is where my great grandparents once lived. There's a crazy story. This is in fact a quinta. For those of you who don't know what a quinta is something of pure elegance here in Madeira. It's basically like an estate or a mansion or a farm. This is where all noble people used to live in Madeira, and also of course big business people who were responsible for the sugar trade, the wine trade, and all sorts of first businesses and big businesses in Madeira and around the world. And apparently this is where there's a little bit of a Romeo and Juliet story in our family, where my great grandmother fell in love with the cook from this quinta. They almost ran away from this place, and decided to get married on their own. She lost a part of her name as well, so there's still a little bit of a mystery as to who she was. It's Carlotta, right? We don't know who Carlotta is in terms of this kind of thing, because she lost her name. She fell in love with the cook, ran away from here, got married, and went to São Pedro, Funchal, which is a pretty crazy story. And that's where we're gonna continue this journey. You ready? Let's go. This is one of my favorite books, the Kintas of Madeira. And inside this book is so much info and so many interesting stories, I can't even tell you where to begin. So Tania, who's helping us in this investigation, told me that there was a connection in my family to that quinta that you just saw, which is the Quinta de Accioli, or Quinta Accioli, or otherwise known as Quinta do Cerrado das Immigrants, which is a place in Santo de Serra, the Sítio das Immigrants, I think it was called, right?
Yes.
So I found the whole quinta in the book, and a little bit of info on the quinta, and it's quite crazy because I actually know one of the old occupants. I don't know the occupant, but I know the story of the occupant, which was the famous Scottish Robert Reed Kelly. He obviously in 1884 was the occupant of Quinta do Cerrado das Immigrants, was the Calvinist Robert Reed Kelly, a doctor from Scotland. Dr. Kelly was a very wealthy man and a great public benefactor who, though he was praised for his generosity, was also prosecuted for his proselytization, which caused riots in Madeira. So he was one of the dudes who was the Protestant. There's that whole story of the Protestants that were in Madeira that were sent away, exiled, and who went to Trinidad and Tobago, and then later to Jacksonville, Florida, which is a whole nother immigration story which we'll get to. And also the old Council of the United States of America, Mr. March, John Howard March, also stayed in this quinta. So a little bit of history there.
Yes.
Tania knows the story of how we got here in São Pedro. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit more about that.
Então, Carlota casou-se com João Nunes e fugiram literalmente do Santo da Serra e vieram viver para aqui, para São Pedro. Quando cá chegaram, compraram uma casa, tiveram filhos, e um dos filhos era a avó do Jeff, Fernanda Nunes, que casou-se com o senhor António, neste caso um militar, que era o que tocava a corneta na infantaria número 19 do Funchal.
Those are my grandparents, and they left Madeira in the 1950s somewhere. My grandfather left first. He stayed 7 years in South Africa until he had enough money to buy a house that then he could send over my grandmother 7 years later to South Africa, which was a common story at the time, and we're going to get more into that later in the video. But now we're quite hungry.
Yes.
we're gonna get something to eat. You guys are gonna come with us, and we're gonna continue down this little rabbit hole and see where history takes us. Let's go. I'm excited. Mzee Cafe, just so you know, is one of the most coolest places in Funchal. I actually don't come here often enough, but the food is awesome, the vibe is awesome, and everything is awesome at Mzee Cafe. So thanks guys, and make sure to head out this way.
Olá, sou a Tania e sou a fundadora do Madeiralineages. É assim, o meu gosto começou quando eu tinha mais ou menos uns 19 anos e comecei a pesquisar sobre os meus ascendentes, a minha família. E eu pensei assim, mas porquê que eu não posso fazer isto a outras pessoas? Pessoas que estão fora e que não tenham a possibilidade de vir cá à Madeira e de conhecer os seus ascendentes, as pessoas que viram cá, onde viveram cá e as histórias interessantes que por aí andam de vez em quando. O Jeff fez uma oferta de fazer a árvore dele e aqui está um bocadinho sobre as histórias, incestos, amores que tiveram que sair porque os pais não autorizavam. Entre outras coisas. E também vem sempre com os registros mesmo do arquivo de onde... Os registros mesmo, não os originais, fotocópias dos originais, para que as pessoas também entendam o que é um bocadinho o meu trabalho sobre o que é ver esta difícil letra dos padres na altura, que não é um trabalho assim muito fácil.
And Tania's done an absolutely amazing job at tying out all the knots and all the official details. We had stories about, you know, I think my grandmother was from here, my grandfather was from there. We gave Tania their names and birth dates, and in one instance a certificate.
Yes.
Was it a birth certificate?
Yes, yes.
And from there she could go into the archives and get all the information, and it's been absolutely priceless. Yes. Tania, thank you very much for all the awesome work that you've done, and I wish you all the best of luck with this new project. And you guys, you need to hook up with Tania so you can find out about your family roots in Madeira. It's something, I mean, I can't even, I want to just see where this video goes. So for now, Tania, thank you very much.
Cheers.
Do you wanna tell me a little bit more about my family, something different maybe?
Of course.
Yeah.
A tua bisavó, neste caso aqui, a Maria Narcisa de Gouveia, ela casou-se com apenas 14 anos. Não é normal, mas na altura se calhar era um bocadinho. Ele tinha os 22, ela ainda tinha 14, ou seja, os pais dela tiveram que pedir, deixar ela casar. Se calhar às vezes é por terrenos ou isso, mais por dinheiro do que mesmo por amor, neste caso.
Well, yeah, from what I've researched as well about Madeiran people going to South Africa, that many times they were married, you know, in order for them to get out of Madeira. So it was like you would marry, maybe the woman would marry men to get out of Madeira, and the parents would see that as an opportunity for a better family life and for better survival. So that was probably something very typical in the immigrant communities.
Esta senhora aqui, Dona Maria Carolina de Gouveia, a tua trisavó, ela sabia ler e escrever, o que para 1877 não é uma coisa muito normal para uma mulher, porque infelizmente nós mulheres éramos só cuida de casa, tem filhos e isso, e para ela saber ler e ter o dona é que ela era um bocadinho importante. Não se sabe não tem nenhum registro a dizer o que é que ela fazia isso, só dizia que ela era uma trabalhadora, mas que era importante o facto dela saber ler e escrever. Os bisavós dela, neste caso, são todos iguais. Estes aqui, estes aqui. Ou seja, o que é que aconteceu? 2 irmãos, estes, casaram-se com 2 irmãos. E os filhos deles casaram-se. Ou seja, são primos. Os primos juntaram-se. Vai-se juntar a família toda, neste caso.
E também nem queria imaginar o que é que a Ponta do Parque parecia na altura.
Como tu tens mais de, eu posso dizer, 90% da tua família toda da Ponta do Parque, aquilo era tudo pequenininho, é normal, tipo, casarem-se primos com primos.
That's probably why I forget everything. There's a Maria da Gouveia. There's another Maria da Gouveia.
Mas é assim, os nomes das mulheres eram sempre foi aqui na Madeira, antigamente sempre foi básicos. Ana de Gouveia, Ana Jesus, muito religioso. Aqui, nesta parte de trás, tu tens mesmo os registros, mesmo os oficiais. Aqui tu tens o caso do teu avô, é o registro de casamento do teu avô, onde diz o nome dos pais, a profissão, a agricultura, doméstica neste caso. O teu avô era agricultor. E este aqui é o do caso da Quinta do Santo António, neste caso da Quinta. Ascioli, exatamente. Que, o casal que casou-se na altura vivia lá, mas depois foram para São Pedro.
Pois.
Aqui, tu tens o significado dos nomes. Neste caso, homem de Gouveia, porquê? Tu tens muito Gouveia, mas a tua descendência é homem de Gouveia. Não, devido aos fracos registros da Ponta do Pargo, eu não consigo saber mesmo exatamente de onde é que veio o teu apelido. Mas de certeza que se tu encontrares alguém aqui na Madeira com que o apelido seja homem de Gouveia, essa pessoa é da tua família. Porque tu tens muita descendência disso.
You know what's my dad's name?
John Snow.
João Neves. John Snow. My dad's nickname is John Snow. João Neves.
Nesta árvore, ok, esta Maria Ribeiro, ela é a mãe, Perpétua Ribeiro, mas o pai,
não sabemos.
Pai incógnito, em que para a altura é uma coisa bastante grave, como aqui é muito religioso, principalmente na Ponta da Parga, é muito religioso. Não ter um pai incógnito é um bocadinho grave. É tipo uma senhora que fez aquilo que não devia antes do casamento, e então é isso.
Uma ovelha negra.
Exatamente, pode-se dizer isso. Um mapa. Tu tens de onde é que vem mais? Claro, Ponta do Pargo. Tu tens muito aqui Santa Cruz por causa da parte da tua mãe, é muito mais este lado. Funchal e Santa Cruz é a parte da tua mãe. Deste lado é a parte do teu pai. A Ponta do Pargo, normal, um dos casos assim no Arco da Calheta, Seixal e isso. E para finalizar, tens muito no Português.
This is my grandmother's house. Was my grandmother's house from my father's side. And I actually remember a little bit about being here as a kid. I remember this kind of like the view on down the bottom, the road, the steep road going down. So it brings back a little bit of memories, but I think when I was young, I must have been like 9 or something, like 7 or 9. So I was too young, really. Did you spend time in this house, Manny?
I've been here once or twice when my great-grandmother came to live here with your great-great-grandmother. So it's, I'm one generation in front of you.
Only one?
But I remember that she came to live here with your great-grandmother, great-great-great-grandmother, and she died here, and she was, she's on the cemetery of Porto Muniz.
Okay.
I remember the stories that I used to come here once upon a time to fetch some wines, that he had some wines at the bottom here.
Porto Muniz is very different.
Yeah, very much so. No comparison to what it used to be.
I mean, there's still a little bit of vineyards over here.
Yeah, this is used to be the same. As you can see, what you see here, it used to be all the way towards to the sea. All this bottom part here, it used to be all this.
Yeah.
All like this. This was the main thing of living here that they had, that they used to live out of this.
I mean, there was no opportunity. But we read in books that there was no food, there was no money, there was no work.
Jeff, I want to tell you something. We can say it was tough times. Yes, it was. But people used to live happily. This is important.
Yeah.
They were happy. with the little that I had, they were happy. If you don't have the opportunity to get out, this is where you are, this is where you're going to make your life, and they were happy. That's it. I myself didn't know Madeira till I came here 30 years ago. And today I wouldn't change it for any other parts of the world. This is a peaceful place, it's beautiful, everybody loves it. This is what I'm just saying, it's sometimes we've got people living here which doesn't even know Madeira at all. I mean, those times it took 100 years, people used to die in certain areas and then they didn't reach the town, for example, from Caldas
Yeah,
Raiders, things like that.
I've heard
So
these
it's
stories.
as simple as that.
Let's go get a coffee, Manny. We'll talk more
Okay.
about that. Coffee time. For those who don't know, this is my cousin Manny of the 3rd degree. So you're second cousins with my father, correct?
Correct.
And Manny was one of the Madeirans that left Madeira to Cape Town. Which year?
1964.
1964. From the investigation that I've done online, from some of the sources that I found online, I believe that the majority of the immigration from Madeira to South Africa happened between 1920 and 1970. Is that
Correct.
That's correct? Could you give us an idea of what life was like in Madeira before, people left, and why did people leave to South Africa?
One of the reasons is obviously it was in those times things were, it's not what's today, of course, and there was no roads that you could lead from to town to for example, where we are now. Will take those times maybe 4 or 5 hours by bus. The people living out of town had big difficulties in getting along with their lives, and they thought the best or the ideal was to immigrate for better life. There were 2 reasons. One was to study, because I was finishing my standard 4, which is the basics year that we had at that time.
Sorry to interrupt, but yeah, this was everybody who left here had kind of like standard 4, right?
Yeah, more or less.
Quarter class, they said.
Yeah, quarter class.
Okay.
And the idea was to go and study and to get away from the wars that we had overseas at that time. Because at those times I realized there were people, soldiers coming back from there with problems, ones without arms, ones without legs, and this and that. I said I didn't want to face this. And I had the opportunity to go, and I'm sure everybody else also had it, and they decided to leave. In my case, fully prepared with all my documents to go to South Africa. But unfortunately, there was a lot of them that had to go via Mozambique to be able to get to South Africa also. A lot of them did it and succeeded.
This is what I saw, what I noticed when I was doing my homework, was that it seemed like the majority of people went through Cape Town, but I saw that there was a lot of people as well that went through Lourenço Marques.
Correct.
Is it that kind of, was it that kind of black and white, that if you didn't have papers you went through Lourenço Marques, and if you did have papers you went through Cape Town?
Yes, basically that, because if you go legally, then you would go through Cape Town, and then the reason they went to Johannesburg, for example, basically a lot of them, they had families there, because economically Cape Town is a beautiful place, but when it comes to the economy, so Johannesburg was much more advanced. That's one of the reasons people also left to Johannesburg. And the other side, when the other situation, or the people going to Mozambique, was for the people that didn't have the papers legally,
Yeah.
and they crossed the borders, and then once they get into South Africa, then they try to organize the being legal there.
The people from Cape Town, the people who stayed in Cape Town were from fishing communities here, and the people who went to Johannesburg were from farming communities.
Yes.
Is that a good kind of distinction to make?
Yes, it is, because there was a lot of initially. The Cape Town was obviously still is a fishing industry as well, and they used to go to Ludreds and so on and so on. Johannesburg, for example, were people more, at that times, more on the farming business.
I also did notice one thing that I wanted to share with everybody as well, which was the distinction of of how people moved. And it was that fact that usually the husband went first in a married couple. For instance, the side on my mother's side where my grandfather left, and only 7 years later did my grandmother join him. Was that the case with your family?
Not me, not my case. I went also through the family, of course, but what my idea was different from the others. The others, they went initially and they started off their lives, and the idea was to be there a couple of years, to get yourself a house, or so then they can bring the family along. Obviously, they couldn't take the family on the first time because they had nowhere to live or anything like that.
People went with what they had in their pockets, kind of thing, right?
It was very tough on the beginning, of course, but this is how it went. And of course, once the main person is there, then he calls his family, then they all go legally. So that was a big advantage, especially on the 60s. I remember the local government insisted in having a lot of white people in South Africa, and this is also one of the reasons that they used to accept the outside people, the outside world.
Europeans,
inclusively. I'll be honest with you, the local government that time used to help to pay the passages for the people to go.
Wow.
I remember I got 50% discount
from which government? From the South African government?
From South African government. We had a document which is called Carta de Chamada. Okay. That document, it was sent by one of the family members there, and then it says, okay, me call you, Jeff, for you to come to South Africa to work for me. In other words, he'll be responsible for you when you reach there, that you'll have a home to stay and work available, and so on. And then from there on, this is how it started.
Wow. I saw that there were different boats. They're all like SS. There wasn't just one or two boats, right? There was quite a few, hey?
Okay. There was a company called Union Castle that had about, I think, 4 different boats, okay? And they used to run from England, Funchal, straight to Cape Town.
Why did they stop in Funchal?
Madeira and in England had a lot of links with even a lot of people from England came to Madeira to develop a lot of factories and things like that. So there was a lot of, and so there was a lot of, not Portugal itself, but more Madeira. We were only allowed 10 Madeirans to leave the country in one boat, not more. I had the opportunity to live in one of those because there was other Portuguese boats as well, but it was entirely different. They had to go through to Mozambique and Angola. These were direct from England, Funchal, Cape Town.
Couple of weeks?
13 days from Madeira to Funchal, to Cape Town.
To Cape Town. Manny, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
And I hope that all of you guys are getting a whole lot of entertainment and value from all of this stuff. If you want to know something about Manny, hook us up, send us a mail, send us a comment on the YouTube comments. Hopefully we'll see your book in the Day of Light one of these days.
If I may say a little bit about my book.
Please do.
My story has been written in a Center of Studies of History of Madeira. In other words, I die tomorrow, my story will be there. And it's available in Facebook, and the idea eventually is to write a book physically. This is not to make myself glorified, this is just simply to give an example of how a child, I can call it a child because I left here, I was 12 years old, to leave my parents behind and go to a country which I don't know the language, I don't know the culture, and going to school with 500 kids at school, and I'm the only Portuguese amongst it, and to overcome all this. This is one of the reasons that I would like to say that we have to be, how strong we are, being Madeirans, living in a small island, but doing things like this.
Thank you, Manny.
Pleasure.
Stick around, we're still moving on to somewhere else. So stick around, it's going to be good. And like and subscribe because you're going to get lots more videos just like this and everything related Madeira-wise. Let's get out of here. So when I first arrived in Madeira, this was one of the first jobs I got, which was a tour guide in a 4x4. And you know, somebody asked me, my ex-boss asked me if I knew how to drive a 4x4, and I was like, yeah, I'm from South Africa, I can drive anything. And obviously when I first started driving, I was like, oh my God, I have to go up that road? Like, are you crazy? Now, of course, it's a lot easier for me. And this is the kind of joy that I bring to my clients when I'm taking them up these seemingly crazy roads and off-roads with beautiful views. And I got one last story to tell you regarding my history and my family, which starts on this road over here. I was doing a sunset tour, and when I first started my business, I wanted to create something new and something different. So I started doing sunset tours because at the time, 10 years ago, we didn't see as much innovation, and I'm not trying to like bring anybody down, but there wasn't many people doing sunset tours on Madeira, at least in the cars, on land, should I say. There were some people doing it on the boats, but not in land. So I had a tip from a fellow colleague of mine to come down this road, because this road comes out by Caleta, and then I can go down to Paul du Mar for the sunset. And I found a little bit of a surprise when I came to the end of this road, which I want to show you guys today. But down here, we've got Caleta on the southwest, which is where a large part of my family, where my family is from. We're gonna head down to Caleta to finish the story. Stick around, it's gonna be cool. So after that whole off-road adventure, I stopped here at this bar, because this is where the street comes out. Remember, I'd never done this street before, I'd never done this off-road before, and I was with clients, adventuring, discovering Madeira, and I landed up discovering something that I wasn't quite expecting or ready for in this bar over here. Come with me, let's go check it out. The second I walked into this bar, I smelled something, all right? I don't know if it's a product. It's not a bad smell, you know, but it's some kind of product or some kind of cleaning product or something in the walls, all right, that I could smell, that I realized that I had been here before. This brought me back to my childhood, to when we used to visit Madeira. When I was a lot younger, we used to visit Madeira quite often to take care of family business and things like that. And I smelled something in here that automatically said, hey, you've been here, and this was a place that you used to spend a lot of time in. So I immediately went to the bartender, or the shopkeeper, should I say, because it's not really a bar, it's a merceria, it's like an old kind of supply store, old small grocery cafe, which you used to see a lot more of in Madeira before the big supermarkets came. And I asked him, I said, do you know my grandfather, for instance, or my mother or my aunt? And I gave him the names, and he, of course, didn't know at first. And this was funny because there's different names that people have. There's like little nicknames and surnames, and there were names. There wasn't the right names, there wasn't the right N name on the word, because I was giving him Gouveia, which is my family name, but they knew my whole family by Costa for some reason. The next week I did that same road, because of course it was a big hit with our clients, you know, big views and awesome trips, and then we were going to the sunset. So it was a big hit. And I'd stopped here again for a little liqueur, something truly local. And you know, the man was like, oh, is your mother's name so-and-so, and your aunt so-and-so, and they had kids, and we had kids, and everybody had kids, and these are and he knew my whole family. And he said, come with me, I want to show you something. I want to show you that as well. So come with me, let me show you. This is the street I used to play on when I was a kid, when we used to visit Madeira many, many years ago. And I remember small details of me running up and down the street with a football. I remember there was a barber somewhere here that cut my hair really badly once. This house over here is from another great uncle of mine as well. My grandfather's brother's house, which is still in the family. And just a little bit further down, we're gonna go and check out as well my great grandfather's house. And all of this came about from that one time that I stopped at that bar and recognized the smell. And I remember very well on that day how excited I was to have found this huge discovery of my family, that I had been here. And part of the reason why I came to Madeira was to discover my roots and to feel what it was to be a Madeiran kind of thing, because we have this big connection. Growing up in South Africa in a Madeiran community, you know, everything was very passionate about Madeira, Madeira, Madeira. We celebrated the same festivals that they celebrate in Madeira. We ate the same food. We all went to the same schools, the same churches. We all went to the same parties. And the culture was still very much alive and is still very much alive in South Africa as it is in Madeira. So me coming back to Madeira was a little bit of that kind of, let me find that culture. So when I stumbled upon it, it was absolutely incredible. This is it, the final destination on today's video. And this is in fact my great-grandfather's house, not my great-great-grandfather's house, as I mentioned earlier. At the end of this whole project of mine, I'm already kind of getting a little bit confused. Thankfully, I've got Tania's notes. So this could be the start of a family exploration, I think. I'm certainly looking forward to finding out more about all the little details that we're starting to dig up. What I wanted to portray is that we actually have to learn something from this whole situation. You know, we need to always remember, you know, where we come from as Madeirans. And of course, I'm speaking to all of you who come from Madeiran roots, from Portuguese roots. I know that there are some of you guys on this channel, be it from South Africa or Canada or America or anywhere else, even in England. For you guys, it might actually hit home a little bit closer. But we went through some really tough times as a culture, and this is proof of that. You know, you can see how beat up the house is, how old it is, and this is the kind of stuff that they had to deal with. This was a very tough life, and people left here to look for a better life without the internet, without Airbnb, without curriculums and big corporate companies. So the way we have it now is actually kind of good. All we need to do is work hard and be passionate about what we do. Guys, I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to come out to Madeira and check out your family roots, then get in touch with Tania, get in touch with me. I would love to show you guys around and to help you discover your roots. I've done it before in the past, never of course to such extent, and I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe to the channel somewhere over here, and I will see you guys next week Monday for a new episode of the greatest vlog in the world. Let's hit the road.